Hey guys, welcome to the video. I'm alive. I am alive. I am getting over a sinus infection, but I am alive. I plucked up the courage to film this video and now I'm kind of having second thoughts naturally. So you can probably see from the title, I want to be very clear. I don't want to trigger anyone, upset anyone. It's not the best. It's time for an update, basically. So I want to film different videos and I want to get into like other things and do other things, but I feel like I need to get this off my chest first. And I need to talk about this first. And I know you guys will understand, and that's what I need right now in order to kind of move forward as well. So this is what we're doing. Because yeah, I'm in a new house, all the fun stuff. So trigger warnings for anyone who wants to avoid this kind of video. I understand completely. We're going to be talking about pregnancy loss. We're going to be talking about ectopic pregnancies. We're going to be talking about the procedures that, you know, everything that goes into an ectopic pregnancy and all of that kind of thing. So if that's something that triggers you, upsets you, etc., please do not watch this video. It's really not worth, yeah, I'm not worth making yourself upset, you know? Okay, so this is not easy. And I know a lot of people who know me watch these videos, but I'm sharing this because I had no idea this was a thing, okay? I happened to Google something and came across a post with a similar situation to mine, and that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of like, maybe. Doesn't look like it, but maybe. And it ended up actually saving my life. So let's get started, shall we? I'm gonna try and make this, it's gonna probably be really short and kind of strange because I don't know emotionally how, yeah. Okay, you guys know me. You know me. I've been gone for like 6-7 months, but you know me. Okay. I'm the same person I've always been. So let's get started. Straight to the point. Let's just jump into this, shall we? We had not been trying. Okay, we stopped TTC and we were just coming around to the idea of like maybe starting up again, right? We were like maybe just kind of giving it a few tries, see how we go. No pressure. Before we even got started on that though, I started feeling, I was expecting my period. I started kind of tracking my periods again to, you know, I was gonna start, like it was literally the first cycle I was, you know, and I was expecting my period. I had some spotting, not really a period. I was like, now it's gonna start, now it's gonna start, now it's gonna start, no, now's the day it's gonna start. Never started. This was in early June. So a few days after the spotting, I was definitely feeling the symptoms. I was in denial. I was like, no, there's no way. Like, I'm like, what? I was feeling different. I was feeling very much pregnant. I was feeling it. And I had these little early symptoms. Like, I always start feeling nauseous really quickly. And I start, like, my taste buds just change instantly. Like, everything just flips. Okay, I was interrupted, but I mean, is it even my video if I'm not interrupted? So, as I said, I was feeling pregnant. Like I was 100%. I was in denial. I was like, there's no way. Like, no, like when you've tried for so long and you've had just negative after negative after negative and you're thinking like, could this be a symptom? Could this be a symptom? When it actually happens for me, at least, I was like, no, but I knew. I was like, there is something going on. So finally, like I was about a week late at this point. Maybe, actually no, I think it was less. It was the spotting and then a few days later, I was like, it might have been like 6 days late at this point. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a test because, you know, it'll probably be negative as I've been used to, and that'll just be the end of that. Who knows what's going on. My period had done like a funny thing to me a few months ago before this. It kind of like skipped an entire month for some reason, but there was nothing. So I did the test and it was a blazing positive. And I know you guys will understand what I looked at that test and I walked away from it and then I walked back. I was like, this is not real. Like it's not, I was lost. I was just like, wow. Because it was a surprise because I don't know how. I know how it happens, but it was not planned. I had not I was not tracking anything. I had no idea when I ovulated. Like I could kind of be like, yeah, I think that's when I ovulated, but other than that, I had no idea. And this was very new for me. And I was just in shock. I was like, oh my God. This was on a Wednesday. And so after I told hubby, and like we were just like this excitement in the air, and this like, oh my God, what are we doing? I started cramping. I started cramping on that day, and the cramping got worse and worse as the day moved on, and I started bleeding. And my mind instantly went to a miscarriage. I was like, of course I would get a surprise pregnancy and then lose it. And I was devastated. The next day I did another pregnancy test in the morning, and it was way fainter. Like it was half the darkness, like from the previous test. Like it was literally slashed in half. Like I was like, okay, HCG is going down. It's just going. And I kept bleeding. I kept having pain for that day as well. So 2 days of pain and bleeding. I will say the bleeding was strange. It was not a normal, like, it was strange. It wasn't like it was my period. I did at the time think maybe, oh, if I had waited one day, maybe I wouldn't have seen it at all, and then I would have just gotten my period late, and it is what it is. But it was a strange bleeding. It wasn't normal. And that in itself I was thinking it's probably a miscarriage. That's why it's not normal. Like maybe that's what's going on. I did another test the evening of the third day of this whole thing happening, because my mind I felt pregnant. Like I felt pregnant, and the symptoms were not going away. They were not stopping. And so for my own sanity's sake, I took another test, which came back blazing positive again. Like blazing. Now, the first two tests were the first two tests were first response, and this one was a clear blue. So I thought maybe the sensitivity is different. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've done so many tests. I was like, my brain was telling me that that's not the case. Like this is too positive for it to, I grabbed some more tests naturally. And on day 4, this was a Saturday, I did another test, and it was blazing positive, like blazing positive. And the bleeding had slowed to almost non-existent at this point. Like there was maybe some spotting, and the pain was kind of going away too. Like there was nothing. Like maybe I would get a little jab on one side of my abdomen, but that was about it. I was just like, something felt wrong, but at the same time I felt very pregnant. So hope is a very, So I was sitting there and I was kind of like, why was that test faint? Like something is not, like the tests were getting darker, clearly getting darker. I felt pregnant. So naturally the next thing would be to call my doctor and schedule an appointment, kind of go in, get blood work done, do all the fun stuff, right? But there was something that was kind of nagging at me, because I was like, I felt like I lost something. Like I felt like something was wrenched out of me these past 2 days with the pain and the blood. So what is going on? And I started Googling, and I have family, I have people who have had like ectopic pregnancies, and it was like pain, and they realized from the pain, and they headed into hospital, and like it was this whole thing. So I was like, I'm not feeling any pain right now, I'm fine, and my tests are getting darker, so the bleeding stopped. So I Googled, and I kind of went into a bit of a, as we do, I look a bit of a rabbit hole. I Googled, I searched. Nothing was really giving me ectopic pregnancy. And until I came across one post from one girl who, she said she had a test that got lighter, and then she did another test a couple of days later to make sure that the line was pretty much gone, because if it was so light the next day, of course it would be gone in a couple of days. And hers were blazing positive again, and they started going up, and she ended up, interruption number 2, what was I? Okay, so I saw this girl's post. She had a darker test, lighter test, dark, had an ultrasound, couldn't see anything, follow-up ultrasound, it was an ectopic. Any other story I had seen, it was like positive pregnancy stories, and it worked out in the end, and it was just a faulty test. And again, hope is a really, one post led me towards an ectopic, everything else was like, it'll be okay. And I went to my doctor that day. I called, I said, look, I'm worried about this. can you get me in today? I don't know. So I went to the doctor's and he had me set up to go do blood work, had me set up to go do ultrasound. We couldn't get into an ultrasound place to get the report back on the Saturday. So my doctor was like, look, if you feel any pain whatsoever, or if you're concerned at all, just head to emergency. And because it was a Saturday, and it was Saturday midday at that point, I decided to go to the ER because I was like, I need to go to emergency because it is Saturday. I don't want to like end up in pain in the middle of the night and like trying to, it's just insanity. So I headed into emergency and they were actually, it was probably because it was midday, I guess, because I feel like nighttime in the emergency is just terrible. Long story short, that first visit to the ER, I spent about 5 hours there, confirmed the pregnancy. I was at like a 472 HCG at the time. I would be 4 days, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 days. Sorry. 4 weeks, 5 days, and 470 HCG. So they were like, look, we have nothing to compare it to. You're gonna have to do a follow-up blood test. The ultrasound I did an internal ultrasound, which was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done, like in recent time. They couldn't find anything and they called it a pregnancy of unknown location because it was a confirmed pregnancy, but they couldn't see anything. Not in my uterus, not in my tubes, not anywhere, like anywhere. So they said, look, do a follow-up, get blood work done, and have another scan done in a week from now. Unless, of course, you're feeling like pain, etc., increasing, and you come back in sooner. Again, hope. Oh God, even just, okay. So the follow-up was my HCG levels were like 1,800 within 3 days. So they were doubling, tripling, they were going up. And my doctor was like, look, you're still feeling pregnant. I'm like, I'm still feeling pregnant. I was still feeling the symptoms, even though at this point, as the days were going by, I felt like they were starting to fade finally. But my HCG levels were going up. So my doctor at that point, he was like, look, maybe it was the miscarriage started to happen, but for some reason it stopped. It just didn't, go through. It didn't happen. Maybe it was too soon to see on the ultrasound. There are a lot of different, we still can't rule out anything. So I was due to do a scan. Because of the levels, he was like, look, give it a few days and then go do the scan. So I went in on a Monday. This was like, I was officially 6 weeks. On the Monday, I was 6 weeks pregnant. And I went in for the scan and I went in so hopeful. Like now I feel like I've spent a lot of time over the past 6 weeks. It has been 6 weeks now almost. Feeling really stupid for hoping so bad. But at the same time, I know that that's a disservice to me and to everyone who's been through this to say that. And I'm sorry. It's how. Just like getting my hopes up so much when I knew there was something telling me like the symptoms were changing. I could feel my body shifting into something very different. I still felt pregnant, but not the way it should be. And I went into that scan just expecting a heartbeat, basically. I was really, and everyone was, and I was planning, like I think the human brain just automatically, like I had started planning, like I had to take back the baby stuff from my brother. He wouldn't need them by the time I needed them and all that kind of thing, and how we were gonna go about this and how we were gonna tell the girls. And if you wanted, I can do a separate video talking about how I handled this with the girls if you want. They're 8 and 5 now, so that was an interesting one. So that scan turned out to show that there was nothing in my uterus. There was nothing in my uterus, but there was something near my left ovary. And the heartbreak I felt in that moment, I am feeling right now as well. So moving on. So the tech who did the scan was straight away, he was like, do you have a plan for what would happen in this instance? I said, yes, I'm heading straight into the ER where I went last week. They will kind of take it from there. And it's like, okay. Because it was already like, I think it was Monday, it was afternoon, it was like past 5 o'clock or whatever. My doctor's office was closed. So straight away, like phone calls, everything, setting up everything for the girls, whatever. I headed into the hospital and I told them what happened. I showed them the report. They got me a report so fast. They were amazing at the ultrasound place. They were absolutely amazing. They were just so, like, they gave me the images straight away. Like, they just gave me the whole, like, big black, like, images. Like, They were like, no, just take them, go straight into the hospital, don't even. And I went in, and at this point, bear in mind, throughout the week that I was waiting, I wasn't feeling outright pain, as in jabs of pain or sharp pain, or I was feeling very sore and tender. I was feeling like, you know, when you overwork a muscle and it's just feeling like you move it and you're like, ugh, like it feels really sore. That's how I felt. I would sit down and I would feel like this really sore tenderness in my abdomen, my entire abdomen, my pelvic floor, like everything just was just very sore and tender. But I have a very high pain tolerance, so I think that's probably played a big part. So I went in and they examined me and they looked at me and I waited for several hours and I did blood work. They told me, they looked at the pictures and they examined my abdomen, and the pain in my abdomen, the doctor was like, it's definitely a thing. And then looking at the image, they were like, okay, clearly there was more pain on my left side. So they were like, clearly it is an ectopic pregnancy we're dealing with. That is not even like, there's no question. We have two options, they said. There's a medication. I do not remember the name right now. I think it starts with an R, but my brain is mush right now. I'm sorry. There's a medication that is like a syringe and it goes into your butt and your thigh, and you have to like, it's hormones, etc. It gets rid of it slowly. You get to go home and just come back and do it tomorrow and all that kind of thing. And then that depends, of course, on the levels being low, like on my HCG being below 5,000. And then there's the laparoscopy. That's where you go in and you have to remove it surgically, with a keyhole surgery, as they called it. And so I knew what was happening at this point. I was, in that moment, being in the ER, I don't know, me and my husband were just kind of like numb. We were just kind of going through the motions. We went from hope to just like nothing. And then we finally got the numbers back and they were 12,000. I don't think I've ever been like, hearing high HCG numbers being a bad thing is just, you're like, and I don't know if I wanted to like, which would be better, like the medication or the, you know, having done the surgery now, having been done with it, I guess either way. So I ended up staying that night in the hospital, waiting for a bed. It was a long wait. I waited literally, I was told you're gonna go in for surgery, but you have to change hospitals. So I had to change hospital because they didn't have like a bed for me or something. They did give me like a temporary bed, but they didn't have a bed, like a proper bed to keep me in, because I would have to stay the night and whatever. So I spent the night in one hospital with hubby, and then the next day we were transferred to another hospital, and I had to wait without eating for like, I think it was more than 24 hours, just no food, nothing, just drips, just a drip in my arm. And I have to say, the one thing that I found amazing was how many women, like nurses and doctors, who would speak to me like, I know what you're going through, I've also been through it. And I was just like, it is insane. Like, being a woman is, a positive pregnancy test can mean so many different things for our body, for like, it's just, no matter what, it's crazy. Anyway, moving on, because I'm, you know, you can see that I am going off the thing here. So I ended up in surgery. The pain built up. So over those 24 plus hours, the pain was building up. So this was, as I said, 6 weeks. So pain was building up. What they saw in the ultrasound, I don't think I mentioned, was a sac, but they could not detect a fetus. So there was the sac, there was maybe a hint of something, but nothing, there was no heartbeat, there was no, yeah. And I think that's probably the only thing that my husband does say, that that's the one thing that kind of made him feel a bit better, as in it wasn't, we didn't have to, you know. Anyway, the small things, right? The small things, you kind of have to hold on to what scraps you can get. So I was in pain, like my left side was officially, like, I was getting jabs of pain by the time they got me into surgery. And after they got me out and everything kind of went well and everything was fine and all good, and I was in bed like a drunk little, they told me that it did start to rupture at that point. It had started rupturing by the time they got me in. With all the waiting, I waited like, yeah, because it was from Monday afternoon when I headed in, like Monday 7 o'clock at night, I was at the emergency, and I ended up in surgery on Tuesday night at like 10:30 p.m. So that's more than 24 hours of just waiting in a hospital, let alone time in between. So did that. 6 weeks of healing. It's been almost 6 weeks now. I'm almost at the end of that healing period, and I had not expected an ectopic to be that way, which is why I'm sharing this. And also, there are still moments, and I think, look at this, where I'm kind of like, I still find myself thinking, oh, I would have been this far along now. Oh, I would have been at like that 12-week mark now, you know. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this here. If you guys have any other questions, I'm more than happy to reply in the comments down below. I do not, like, you guys have had enough crying videos of me in the past. You don't need a new one. Plus, I think my sinus infection will not be happy with me if I start crying. So that was yeah, my fun update. Oh, my hubby's back. I need to finish this video. If you have any questions, anything at all, if you want to share, like, I'm here for anyone who wants to talk, who wants to, you know me. DM me on Instagram if you want it to be just more personal. Comment down below. I will answer anything. If you want me to talk about how I spoke about this with my girls, I'm more than happy to make another video about that. We're gonna move into different things, positive things. I have another channel where I write my book. I talk about writing my book. If you guys want to look into that, I'm writing a fantasy romance. Yeah. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next one because I'm gonna be back. This time I'm actually gonna do it. I will. Bye, guys.